Before the protests, before the hashtags, there was fear. In many Nigerian cities, young people feared one group of officers more than criminals themselves, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Long before the hashtag End SARS began to dominate conversations on social media, many young Nigerians were already living with a quiet but constant fear that followed them everywhere they went. In cities across the country, especially in places like Lagos, the night carried a special kind of tension. Young men returning from work, students walking back to their hostels.
Hey you, stop there. Open that bag. It's just my laptop. I'm a programmer.
And entrepreneurs carrying laptops or smartphones often found themselves looking over their shoulders, not because of criminals, but because of the very officers who were meant to protect them.
Young boy with laptop and iPhone. You think we're stupid? Search him. I didn't do anything.
Patrolling these streets was a special unit of the Nigerian police known as the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, often called SARS. The unit had originally been created to fight violent crimes like armed robbery and kidnapping, but over the years, many citizens began to accuse some officers within the unit of abusing their power. Stories began spreading about harassment, unlawful arrests, extortion, and even violence against ordinary young Nigerians, whose only crime seemed to be owning a laptop, driving a nice car, or dressing in a way officers considered suspicious.
This thing has to stop. They almost took my laptop today. They did worse to my cousin last week.
What can we even do? People are starting something online. Yet, look at this hashtag. For many young people, encountering a SARS patrol vehicle could instantly turn an ordinary night into a frightening experience. Officers would stop cars without warning, search bags and phones, and question young men about their jobs, their devices, and even their appearance. In some cases, people reported being forced to transfer money just to avoid being taken away to a police station, creating a growing sense of anger and frustration among Nigeria's youth.
Officer, please, we didn't do anything. This is harassment!
As the police lights flashed in the distance, many young Nigerians felt their hearts race with anxiety. Something as simple as carrying a laptop after a long day of work could suddenly attract unwanted attention. For programmers, designers, students, and entrepreneurs who relied on technology for their livelihood, these encounters became a recurring nightmare that left them feeling powerless and unprotected.
These nightly encounters slowly built a deep frustration within a generation that was already struggling with unemployment, economic pressure, and limited opportunities. What began as scattered complaints shared among friends and family would eventually grow into a national conversation, one that would soon explode across the internet and spill onto the streets.
At first, it was only a few voices online speaking out against police brutality. But those voices were about to multiply into thousands and eventually millions.
For years, Nigerians have complained about the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. But tonight, something feels different. The anger online is growing fast.
As a simple hashtag began to unite young Nigerians in a way the country had never seen before. For many years, stories of harassment and intimidation linked to members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad had circulated quietly among Nigerians. Friends told friends about terrible encounters. Victims shared their experiences within small circles, and many people simply tried to avoid trouble by staying silent.
We won't be silent anymore! Disperse immediately. You can't silence us anymore!
But in the age of smartphones and social media, silence was becoming harder to maintain. One disturbing video posted online would soon capture the attention of thousands of Nigerians who had grown tired of hearing the same painful stories again and again. Within hours, the video began spreading across social media platforms, shared by people who were outraged by what they believed was yet another example of abuse of power. Each share brought new viewers, and each viewer added their own voice to the growing chorus of anger. What had once been isolated complaints suddenly became part of a national conversation, as Nigerians began asking difficult questions about policing, accountability, and justice.
Look at this video. This is exactly what people have been talking about for years. Every week, someone has a story about being stopped, searched, or threatened by officers who are supposed to protect us. The worst part is that nobody listens. People complain, they tell their stories, but nothing ever seems to change.
Maybe that's why this video is different. This time everybody can see it. Over the past several hours, a video circulating on social media has sparked widespread outrage among young Nigerians. Many users claim the footage shows officers connected to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad engaging in misconduct. As the video continues to spread online, thousands of people are now demanding answers and calling for reforms within the police force.
Soon, a phrase that had quietly appeared online years earlier began to rise again with new intensity.
The words were simple, but their meaning carried the frustrations of an entire generation. Nigerians began repeating the same demand again and again, calling for an end to the controversial police unit.
What started as a few posts and shared videos was quickly becoming something much larger than anyone expected. The anger that had been building for years was finally finding a voice.
And that voice was growing louder with every passing hour.
Soon, those voices would leave the internet and move onto the streets.
Long before young Nigerians took to the streets to demand change, there had already been years of painful stories shared in silence. Stories of encounters with officers from the Special Anti-Robbery Squad that left deep scars on individuals,
families, and entire communities. These stories were not always captured on camera, and many of them never made it to the news. They lived on in conversations, in memories, and in the growing fear that followed many young people wherever they went.
For some young Nigerians, owning a car or carrying an expensive phone became something to hide rather than celebrate.
There were repeated claims and testimonies from individuals who said they were stopped, questioned, and sometimes accused of crimes, simply because of their appearance or the items they possessed.
What's this?
It's just my phone. These encounters often turned tense very quickly, leaving victims feeling targeted and vulnerable.
Stop resisting! We will tell Oga he is a criminal.
Where did you get this phone? Tell us the truth right now, because this kind of lifestyle doesn't match what we are seeing. I work online. I'm into design and programming. That's how I make my money. I can even show you everything on my laptop if you want to check.
You think we don't know what you boys do? Don't try to play smart with us. My friend, if you don't speak up, I will kill you here, and nothing will happen.
Growing reports from citizens and human rights groups alleging that some interactions with SARS officers escalated into violence and in certain cases resulted in severe injuries or even loss of life. These reports, whether shared through eyewitness accounts, social media posts, or community discussions,
contributed to a deepening sense of anger and distrust.
Behind every story was a family left searching for answers, a group of friends trying to understand what went wrong, and a community struggling to process the pain. For many, the issue was no longer just about harassment or intimidation, but about safety, dignity, and the fundamental right to live without fear.
This is getting out of hand. It's no longer just about stopping people on the road. People are getting hurt. That's why people are angry. This has been happening for years, but now everybody is starting to pay attention. So what happens now? Now we speak.
As more stories surfaced and more voices joined the conversation, the anger that had once been whispered in private spaces began to grow louder. What started as pain was slowly turning into resistance, and what began as individual experiences was becoming a collective demand for change.